Hello, it's Ashley. So, try not to mind the bags under my eyes and the drawn expression. It does definitely mirror my soul. You see, many have said, don't dim your light. Don't dim your light for others. But I don't know many who could possibly relate to what it's like to have your light dimmed. And many Christians would say, oh, just plead the blood of Jesus. Well, of course I do. That's how I stay alive. But there's been some generational curses, some generational inheritance blocking in my family by the people I trusted the most. Has this been revealed to me in the physical realm? No. God's revealed it to me. And I know enough, and I know Him well enough to know it is. So, for many years, I've been trying to rise above Satan's matrix. And Jesus has been with me every step of the way. The angels and Father have been with me every step of the way. But you can't go around what you got to go through. I'm exhausted, down to my bones. But I know I'm on the path. No, Christians, I'm not doing something wrong. No, I'm not being punished. I'm being positioned and prepared. Am I weary? Yes, but I don't let it stop me. I'll tell you a little story about something that happened to me probably a few years ago now. I had been in a long relationship, a very destructive relationship. I find now that it had been orchestrated by one of my family members that I trusted, but never wanted anything to do with me. So I was with this person for about 8 years. We did drugs. I stayed isolated, hidden. Didn't know I was so broken. Didn't know that I was bound by the enemy through the trust of someone that I loved. And was working with the person that I was with. Well, finally, after 8 years, I got off the drugs, and I knew that I needed to get away. God put it in my heart and my spirit, get away. So I went to a shelter. It took me a while to be able to get to that shelter. There was quite a story, the few days of leaving and then actually getting to one. But after about a week and a half, I was kicked out. And when the woman brought me, and mind you, I go above and beyond wherever I am. I cook, I clean, I do my responsibilities. I was looking for a job. I'd redone my resume. Like, I was walking a mile to town every day to get a job. I was working really hard and getting up in the morning and spending time with Jesus, praising Him, being close to Him. It's the only way I got through. So about a week and a half after I'd been there, we had made plans that Friday evening, that me and the head lady of the place, and she had asked me, they kind of typically for a women's and children's shelter to find out what you're doing, what your plans are. And I told her that I revised my resume and I was going to take them to a couple of different places and go to the library and work on it. And she's like, okay, sounds good. Well, Monday morning came around. Something happened that weekend. Sorry, the camera was really close. Whoa. Something had happened that weekend. There was some kind of, she had done some kind of ritual, some kind of demonic, wherever I go, whatever I do, I don't care what anybody says about it, the enemy seeks out those that are around me. He either makes them not like me, think they can't trust me, or if he's already in their lives, he makes them hate me. And this doesn't just happen to me. This happens to quite a handful of people. Anyway, so that Monday morning, she pulled me into the office, and she said, so you can't stay here anymore. There had been an incident before where there was some girl there that was doing voodoo hoodoo and was cooking, but she wouldn't speak to anybody. She was horrible, really mean. And I stopped eating her food after I almost had a breakdown, and she left. Well, that had been over a week ago since this woman called me into the office. And, when I told her about it that week prior, she laughed at me. And I said, you know what? Because I could tell what was going on. I was like, you know what? I'm fine. I'm just going to only eat what I make. No big deal. And I went on about my business. Well, that Monday morning she brought me and she's like, you can't stay here anymore. You don't feel safe here. And I said, are you kidding me? We had a meeting on Friday. We made plans. And she said, you don't feel safe here. You can't stay here if you don't feel safe. And I said, the girl that made me feel unsafe left over a week ago. And she left after I stopped eating her food. So why wouldn't I feel safe now? That makes no sense. And then right then and there, I don't know what the Father did, what Father Jesus did, but they made one of her eyes look just like a serpent eye. And I knew there was no point in me being there. There was demonic altars set up throughout the house. And I heard in my spirit, accept it, trust me, move on. And so I said, okay. I said, yes, ma'am. And she said, and if you don't like it, she said, you need to leave on Wednesday. And if you don't like it, you can leave today, which was Monday. Well, I asked my friend to bring me to the library on Wednesday, a girl that was staying there too with her children. Because I was going to look online all day and find somewhere else to go, right? Well, it was June 19th, so it was a holiday. That's why they kicked me on that day. I slept on the street that night. I remember the family member that I, wondered why she loved everybody else in the family and didn't want to have anything to do with me and always poisoned everybody against me with a sweet smile and soft words. She called me the morning that I had slept on the street and just wanted to know what was going on. She had been divining my destiny for quite some time. I've never been in the occult. I've never done any of that stuff. I don't know, I've never been in it to understand how it works from that end, but I know how it works from the Ephesians 6:10 end. And I remember hearing the laugh in her voice. And I didn't recognize it then because I hadn't figured out a lot of the things that I have now. So I got off the phone with her after that. And, I was with Jesus all day. I knew he was right by my side. He was with me. And I remember crying and just saying, I can't do this anymore. I've left the bad situation. I've done everything I know to do. I have no help but you, which is, I know enough. It's sufficient. But I'm alone. I have no money. I have no resources. And so he guided me all throughout the day. I ended up speaking to some people at a shelter and prayed with them. They invited me back for lunch. They didn't have a place for me to stay, but they have provided 3 meals a day. Went back at lunch, but Jesus guided me down an old country road before I had gone to meet these people for lunch. Mind you, I'd already met with them that morning, prayed with them. About 5 of us got in a group and prayed. And then Jesus guided me down this old country road. And he told me to knock on a door. And I said, Jesus, if I knock on this door and no one answers, I just think I might collapse right here and right now. He said, knock on the door. And it didn't look like anybody was home. So I knocked on the door. Nobody answered. And as I was about to just expire on the spot, pretty much, he said, turn around. And so I turned around, and there was this girl coming out of a house. Sweet girl that she and another guy had offered me a ride on a walk home from looking for a job the week prior. And there she was. He said, ask her for some water. So I walked over there. I told her what was going on. And she said, listen, I know you want to go back up here and help, go talk to the people at the shelter and let them provide lunch. And then, and then I actually stayed there and cleaned and stuff. But anyways, I'm getting ahead of myself. She says, I know you're going to go up there. But when you're done, you come back here and rest. And we'll figure something out. Just okay. So I knew I had shelter. I knew I had somewhere to go in that moment, So I walked back up to it was a homeless shelter where they provided meals, and I ate there with them, and then I helped clean up afterwards and clean a couple of things just to, contribute where I could. And then I walked back to this really sweet lady's house, and she had told me she wouldn't be there, but there would be someone there that was staying with them, and that he was really nice. And so I actually went inside when I got back and prayed with this fella and everything, and we talked about some of the things that he'd been going through, and we prayed about it. And then he left, and then I went into the bathroom and I was crying and praying some more. And she came and knocked on the door. This was I'd been there a couple of hours, and she said, hey, let's go. I have somewhere for you to go. And I thought, oh, God, I don't want to go anywhere. I want to stay here. But Jesus spoke to my spirit. He said, just go with her.